trouble with funding its commitments. Some estimates 2042, others 2057. The bottom line is we have some time to deal with this very serious issue, and we need to come up with a common sense solution. We need to come up with a practical solution that's going to shore up the solvency of the program, and that's going to ensure that this nation can pay back its commitments to millions of Americans. Now, one of the things that I certainly don't think is the answer is something that Mr. Weller and his colleagues have repeatedly done, and that's using Social Security funds to pay down the deficit. Now, that's clearly another issue entirely, the federal budget deficit, which is harmful to middle-class Americans, small business owners alike. But the answer to solving our fiscal crisis in this country is not raiding the Social Security fund. We need to come together. We need to find a way to shore up the solvency of this program that doesn't involve privatization and that does not involve stealing money away from Social Security to pay down the deficit.
Thank you, Mr. Pavich. Mr. Weller, you have 1 minute to respond.
Well, Social Security is one of the areas where I've disagreed with the President. The President proposed, his commission proposed using Social Security payroll taxes to create personal accounts. As you know, I was on record in opposition to that idea. I believe we need a solution to Social Security that guarantees the basic benefit, that does not increase taxes, that finds a way to supplement and actually increase the potential benefit for Social Security beneficiaries. I think the dates are really important. In 2008, just 2 years from now, the baby boomers begin collecting Social Security. A huge amount of the population moves into the retirement generation. That's Bill Clinton's generation. That's George W. Bush's generation. And there's going to be a tremendous demand as we have fewer workers contributing, more retirees taking out benefits. Second is, in 2018, Social Security actuaries say we start actually having a negative cash flow, which means more money's going out than coming in. And as early as 2042, the Social Security actuaries...
Mr. Weller, your time is up.
Oh, okay.
Mr. Pavich, you now have 1 minute to respond.
Well, I think the most important thing we need to do is to remove talk of privatization from the table. And, that's something that we're hearing discussed again. And I think it's important for everybody to understand that the vast majority of the Republican caucus intends to privatize Social Security. That is going to do great harm to future generations. It's going to do harm to the ability of the Social Security system to pay off its benefits, to pay back the commitment that we have made to generations of Americans. We cannot afford to privatize a system that has worked so well. And the reason I think so many in the Republican majority right now are intent upon privatizing the Social Security system, it's a government system that works. And they don't like that, because that shows that government can serve to help people, especially when they're most in need.
Thank you, Mr. Pavich. Our fifth question, Jonathan, you can go ahead and ask your second question that you have for Congressman Weller is going to answer this one first.
All right, thank you. In the last few years, the price of oil has been sustained near record levels, and the MBTE fuel additive has been phased out of circulation. The ethanol industry seems to have become the alternative fuel of choice within the United States. As a result, ethanol producers, including such major international corporations as Archer Daniels Midland, have reported soaring profits from the manufacture and sale of ethanol, some as high as 50%. That sudden success appears to be attributable, at least in part, to the 51-cent per gallon tax credit granted by the federal government to ethanol production. At what point do you believe it will be appropriate to roll back or remove the tax credit from domestic ethanol production?
Mr. Weller, you have 2 minutes.
Well, I believe it's good policy right now to encourage investment in biofuels. I've always argued that we need to replace imported oil with homegrown biofuels. The LaSalle County area is a big winner as a result of the energy bill. And the energy bill I voted for, helped put together, the president signed into law a year ago, is in the process of creating hundreds of jobs in this area. We have over 24 investors in Illinois, investor groups in Illinois, moving forward with plans to construct and operate ethanol and biodiesel plants. That's the reason corn today is $2.85. A year ago, corn was $1.65. And farmers will tell you corn prices are high because of the increased demand for ethanol. We're going to have biodiesel plants that we're already aware of, that have already been publicly announced in Princeton, Seneca, and Streator in this area. That's creating construction jobs, that's creating operating jobs, that's increasing demand for corn. But we need to do a lot more. And the fact we double ethanol and biodiesel use is a big factor in this increased investment. And we also provide incentives for investment as well in the tax code. But I also believe we need to do more by increasing our current 4 billion to 25 billion gallons biodiesel and ethanol used each year. That would actually not only increase fivefold, but according to economists, at 25 billion gallons by the year 2025, would eliminate 1.6 million barrels of oil a day. That's the equivalent of what we currently import from Saudi Arabia. And the reason gasoline prices have gone up twice in the past year, today they're lower than they were in August of 2005. I bought gas for $2.08 in Streeter yesterday. The price of gas in August 2000 was 2005 was $2.35. But we had two big price spikes. Why? Because we're overly dependent on imported oil. We need to replace imported oil with homegrown biofuels.
Thank you, Congressman Weller. Mr. Pavich, you now have 1 minute for response.
Well, I think the first thing we need to talk about is passing some real energy reform in Congress. The energy bill that Mr. Weller is talking about last year and the people in his party are so proud of is the same bill that gave companies like ExxonMobil over $37 billion in tax breaks and subsidies. And ExxonMobil this summer was making about $1,300 a second. I don't think that a company like that needs tax breaks from the American taxpayer. That being said, we do need to pass some serious legislation here that's going to basically promote a Manhattan Project for energy independence. We have to wean ourselves off of foreign oil. I think everybody understands that, but talk is cheap. We've got to get down to the action of actually getting it done. That means, I think Rick, you were asking about, or Jonathan, you were asking about tax subsidies. We need to make sure that the ethanol industry is successful until it is financially viable and no longer relies on government subsidies. We can do that, and then we can increase or accelerate our path towards energy independence.
Thank you, Mr. Pavich. Mr. Weller, you will now have 1 minute for a response.
Well, talk is cheap from politicians, but action gets the job done. And we passed an energy bill last year that doubles the amount of ethanol and biodiesel that's being used in America. It's estimated in the next 18 months that 2 billion additional gallons of ethanol will be brought into the marketplace as a result of the energy bill. That's why corn prices are $2.85 this year. I believe that the tax code can be used. In the energy bill last year, we created a hybrid tax credit to encourage consumers to purchase hybrid vehicles, and that helped create the market for hybrids. I proposed in my 25 by 25 Biofuels Act a proposal which creates a tax credit to encourage consumers to buy a hybrid flexible fuel vehicle, which marries the E85 as well as the hybrid technology. It's estimated if 5% of vehicles in America were hybrid flex fuel vehicles, that would reduce oil imports by 140 million barrels of oil a year.
Mr. Weller, thank you. Our sixth question is actually going to come from myself as soon as I get my timer going here. Recently, CBS conducted a poll for my generation, that would be 13 to 25-year-olds, asking what the most important problem their generation will face in 20 years. And the number one response was the environment. What do you think Congress should do to increase the focus on the environment? Mr. Pavich, you will have 2 minutes for your response.
Well, this is certainly one of the more serious long-term issues that we're facing in this country. The concerns about the environment, concerns about global warming, just about all people who have a basis in reality understand that global warming is a real phenomenon. It's something that needs to be addressed. And until recently, not only has it not been addressed by this Congress, by this administration in a positive way, they've actually taken several steps to roll back decades worth of environmental regulations, whether it's with the clean air standards, the clean water standards, or logging standards for our national forests. There have been a lot of environmental regulations that were hard fought and won over the past few decades that have since been rolled back by this administration, this Congress, that has been very hostile to the environment and to, quite frankly, to future generations. Now, I believe we owe future generations of this country a little bit better. I think we owe them at least an attempt to slow the damaging effects of global warming. We owe them an attempt to clean up